So hi, good morning. I wanted to give you a little bit of an update. I wanted to do a video to go with this blog at the end of the month that, again, I'm trying to do every month for a whole year. Like, maybe I can actually get 12 done this year. That would be great. But I wanted to do a little bit of a video because I'm in the process of recording a new course, and I've been a little bit out of the video recording mode, so I'm using this to kind of ease myself back into it. So the month of February has been wet here in Holland. It's been very wet. It hasn't been very cold, but it's very wet. It's wet and windy, and if you hear anything outside, that is the wind. Actually, it's quite strong today. I did not do a lot of art this month, which, yeah, it is what it is. I needed to get my studio rearranged, my studio, my office, my bedroom that I stole and am using for work, and I needed to rearrange that. It wasn't working. I had one desk with my computer on it, and I was also trying to do art on that desk, and then ended up doing a lot of art on the floor and stuff against walls, which is fine, but on the floor what you get is dust issues. Okay, so it's not, especially with oil paint, it's not recommended. So I wanted more table space, and that is what I got. And what I also wanted was not necessarily an ergonomic way of working, if that's even the correct word. But I needed a different way of working. Here's the thing. When I sit down, I turn into this sort of a crab. I fold over myself. I literally fold my body over whatever it is I'm working on. And then I forget what I'm doing. I forget how I'm sitting, or sometimes I'm sitting on my leg, which I don't feel. And then when I sort of wake up from being focused on something, my body hurts. Like, everything hurts. I can hear you thinking, why not stand? Which is something I do a lot. But the stupid thing is that I'll also do the same thing when I stand. So when I stand and I am focused and I'm thinking, I lock my knees, I lock my hips, I bend my back in this weird way. It's an absolutely ridiculous thing to look at, probably. And again, then I wake up and I feel like I'm 120 years old. It's probably not good. Like, I'm 40. So I probably have a long time to go if everything works out. So I needed to find a way to be a little bit more mindful of my body. So what I did is I found a stool with a round bottom that sort of wobbles. Like, I'm sitting on it right now. You can wobble. And I've seen these stools before in my son's classroom. He goes to a Waldorf school. They had a bunch of those. Those stools were very, very wobbly. Like, you actually had to pay a lot of attention when sitting on them so that you didn't fall over. This one is a little bit less so. I think it has like quartz sand in the bottom. There's a rubber bottom with sand in it, so you can move around, but it's not super wobbly. So I can sort of sit, stand, and I also got some desks that I can adjust the height of from IKEA, which was awesome. So I'm quite happy with that. And now we have a lot of table space. I also got a lot of drawer space so I can organize my stuff. So I'm organized again, and yeah, ready to get started. So I'll show you a couple of panels that I have going that I started in January. I think. Yeah. That have been drying. I'm gonna start more panels. I'm gonna start just a load of panels. If I learned anything last year from working on the pieces for my exhibition, was that do not underestimate the drying time of oil paint. Just, start all the panels you want to start and work on them sort of simultaneously. But, some of these layers, they need to dry for a couple of days. There's some of these layers with white in it, titanium white, which dries notoriously slow, need weeks to dry. But if you have a lot of panels going, if you have a lot of stuff going, you always have other things to do. So I was going to show you my panels that I was working on. Let's start with the first one. I started this based off a sketch that I made earlier this year. This hasn't been worked on for quite a while. Not really sure where I wanted to go with this. Yeah, it was a little bit of a spontaneous, okay, let's start this first panel. So I might have to do a few things in terms of deciding which color palette we're going to be using. Yeah, maybe I'll leave this as my sort of experimental palette. I have a few more sketches in the same sort of style, if you will, coming from the same idea, the same feeling, the same flow. That I would like to explore as well, possibly on bigger panels, not really sure. The second panel I started was this one. I think I shared a couple of in progress photos of this one. It's dry, it's bone dry by now, so it needs, I actually wanted to finish all the the opaque painting layers and let that dry in one go and then do some glazing, but I don't know, I got distracted. So it probably needs a little bit of working on the details, and I might just start glazing some parts already. It turned out to be a very strange color palette. Like, it almost looks like a commercial from My Little Pony. It's kind of weird. I don't know how it happened. I do know how it happened, because normally I work with quite muted colors. A lot of iron oxides, like burnt sienna, raw sienna, stuff like that. There's a cap on the amount of chroma that you get out of pigments like that. And then I put on my palette a couple of higher chroma, like super high chroma actually, pigments, which was an Indian yellow and a magenta, which is like going from 0 to 100 miles in 60 seconds or whatever it is. I don't drive a car. I don't know how fast these things go. But anyways, it's a stretch. So I have this Michael Harding magenta that is crazy pigmented, and just, it's a magenta, so it's like maximum super over the top chroma. And I think that's how I got into this My Little Pony palette, because I put chroma on my palette. We'll see how it works out. It's fun though. Then I started this one, and yeah, I'm gonna do some weird stuff with this. I actually have a giant, well, not giant, but for me, a big drawing going on from the same kind of photo shoot that I did. And I don't know, I kind of want to go with the flow with this, but I have this really weird emerald green color, and I want to try glazing over the top. I can explain this to you, but I don't know how it's going to work out, first of all, and I probably it's no point explaining. I'm gonna try it and I'm gonna post a reel on Instagram or something, if it works out. Then I have my fourth panel. This one took a long time to dry because of the white. It's not as thick as it looks. I just want to point that out. It's not like a few millimeters thick. It just looks that way, the way that it's painted. This needs glazing. I put this on to try and work with a stronger underpainting, like a stronger contrast in the underpainting. I tend to go for the values that I'm looking for instead of a higher contrast, so you have some more room to do glazing, because when you glaze, you make stuff darker. So what happens sometimes with my work is that when I start glazing, I make everything too dark because it's correct to begin with. Okay, and then I need just to come back in and take out the lighter areas again. So I got a lot of problems, okay? So I have some stuff in my sketchbooks that I want to explore more in new panels. I took some reference photos for some of the elements, some of the light. So those are my panels. These are some of the sketches that I have available to work from. It's enough, right, for the first 2 months and a whole studio organization. So I live in a town. This is a pretty small town, but we have this one location where they often have music and concerts and whatever. And every now and then on a Sunday afternoon, they reserve that location for nude sketching practice. And somebody arranges a model, and you all pay a small entrance fee, and it's cool. We're just there, sketching. So I went with my friend, Anna, and I also met up with someone there that I knew from the last time. So all kinds of social stuff going on. It was fun. And I shared the sketches on Instagram, and I posted a whole lot of stuff in the description, but I didn't share them last time, and I want to be honest with you about that because I have no filter, and that's who I am, I guess. I shared them this time because they worked out. There we go. And last time I was stressed, I was tense, it was my first time there, I had no idea what I was doing, so all of that led to what I thought was poor sketching. I want to point that out because I don't want to be that person that goes on Instagram, shares good sketches, and then is like, oh, look at me showing average or below average work. I know very well when my work is average, below average, or above average. So I don't have a tendency to show the stuff that I actually think is blah. Just no. If you want me to, you can DM me and I will show you a picture if you want, But I don't feel comfortable yet with that. And I appreciate people who do it, and I do maybe preach about it. But I also preach, I think, often enough about, respecting your own boundaries. Like, if you're not comfortable sharing a part of your process, part of your learning process, you don't have to. You don't owe anything to anyone, okay? So let's end this video with some stuff I did in terms of, I want to incorporate some stuff I did in terms of art. Sometimes I go to museums. Last weekend I went to the Museum of Arnhem. Arnhem is a town in the sort of east of the Netherlands. If you haven't been there, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways, the Museum of Arnhem is a very beautiful museum. It has a nice garden as well with sculptures. The interior is, I really like the design. I like the design, I like the layout. It's not very big. The reason that we went to Arnhem is because a friend of my mother's had a CD presentation, so we were there and decided to visit the museum. I was hoping that they had their regular collection, but they didn't. Like I said, it's quite a small museum, so whenever they have special exhibitions, they take out the regular collection and replace it with the temporary exhibition. Normally they have in their regular collection, they have one of my favorite Dutch painters, which is a really great painter, Jan Mankes. Unfortunately, they didn't have that. Now, what they did have was a really great exhibition by a Dutch artist, Charlotte Schleifert. She has a collection of work called Tolerance Test, and I'm gonna, again, everything's linked below. Go and check out her website, her social media, because sometimes you walk in a room and you're like, wow, but you haven't even looked at details. You haven't looked at the description of the artworks. I hadn't even looked at the artist itself. I didn't know who she was or what the idea was behind it, but you walk and you go like, yeah, right? That's great. That's really great art. Really big pieces of paper. By big, I mean like 3 meters big, long, with figures that confront and kick against society. Love it. So yeah, Charlotte Schleifert. That was a great show. Then the other show they had in the rest of the museum, which is the main part of the museum, was art from the Third Reich. I knew they had the exhibition. I got their email and it was announced. And the first thing I thought was, I should go see that. Just to be clear, in terms of, because in English they call it the Third Reich, while in Dutch we just call it the Dutch word. So it's the German regime from, say, 1933 to 1945, when Adolf Hitler came to power, was in power, okay? So that is that era of human history. I didn't want to go. Arnhem is not around the corner, so I have to go by train, and it's a journey. And lately I've been visiting more museums, which for me, it takes effort. I don't like going outside. I don't like traveling. I don't like people. I don't like cities I don't know. I don't like things I don't know. So going there for me it takes an effort. And I do it because I want to see art and I want to learn more about it. This was something that I was wondering, do I want to put in the effort for this? So we were there anyways. So we went there anyways. And then we were like, we're going to see this exhibition. It was terrible. It was depressing. It was utterly depressing. That's what I want. That's the main summary. You can be all correct about it and say, we need to look at our history. We do need to look at our history. We can't forget what happened. We can't forget what happened. But the general feeling there, it was terrible. And for an artist, for someone, not even when you're not an artist, when you love art, to see art being abused that way. So what they also had was a timeline on the wall, and it was very well constructed exhibition. I had a timeline on the wall that both showed what happened in terms of politics, starting I think from 1928 and 1929, something like that, but also separately in red letters what happened in terms of art. And it was incredibly interesting to see separately how they used art, abused art and artists to control people's opinion and the way they look at the world. Okay. They did a lot of horrible things. They burned a lot of art, which, when you look at it, it's not the most horrible thing they did. So, but this was about the art that they used in order to shape their vision of the world. The ironic thing, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say about it. The ironic thing is that 80% of the artworks in the exhibition were subpar, were shit. They are technically flawed. They're uninteresting. They lack depth. They lack literally everything that makes art. They lack. And there were artworks there that were simply technically shitty. Like, what? I think that is what you can conclude when from a show like that when you start telling artists and telling people what to do, things go to shit. It's my expert opinion here. I'm very glad I saw it. I think I'm still a little bit shook by it a week later. I'm glad I saw it. I don't really need to see it again. I think it needs to be part of our general education, and I don't think it needs to take up a lot of museum space and or time. But there are a lot of people with a lot of different opinions, and I think probably the most important thing is just that we keep talking about it. So that's what I went to see, and afterwards we went to a CD presentation in a restaurant which had a lot of really nice art on the wall. So that kind of lifted my spirit a little bit again. Alright, so this video is getting way too long. I have planned for March to record a large chunk of Foundations 2. That's going to be ready this year, hopefully. I want to start some new panels. I want to work on my current panels. So yeah, that's it for this month. Let's make it a good next month. Let's do a lot of art, do a lot of painting. I'm going to try and be a little bit more active on social media and talk to you a little bit more. If you have any questions, you can either drop them in the comments below the blog or here on YouTube, social media. I'm everywhere these days. Or if you just want to share something that you did this month as well. I'm gonna get back to work, and I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you again next month, probably, but maybe sooner. All right, bye-bye.